we focus a lot too much on happiness. Did I have a happy day?
Yeah.
Did I get the likes that I want? Is my skin clear? Are my pores clear? Whatever that superficial is. Happiness is quite, I don't want to say easy to get, but I think it's very transient. Mm-hmm. I think being proud of the person that you are, that's darn tough.
Welcome to Fab at 50, the podcast where we celebrate reinvention, confidence, and the wisdom that comes with your life's second act. I'm your host, Kala Shekhar, and today we're diving into a topic that's so close to every woman's journey, the difference between confidence and self-respect, and why so many ambitious, capable women unintentionally sabotage their own success. We often hear the word be confident, but very few people talk about self-respect. Hashtag self-care, hashtag confident is always trending, but hashtag self-respect, not so much. And here's the truth. Confidence is about what you can do. It's how the world views you. But self-respect is that little conversation that you have within yourself. It's that dialogue that you talk to yourself at the end of the day. And sometimes you are sabotaging your own progress. But why? Why is it that we always seek approval? Are we inherent people pleasers? We've always been told to blend in. Always we like to be in the group. But that's what is causing you to sabotage your own success. And my guest today knows this all too well. She's a scientist turned author. She's a mindset coach and the creator of the Self-Respect Playbook, a new book that offers a framework for women to stop shrinking and start setting boundaries and finally start to achieve more. So you have that clarity and you move forward with integrity. Welcome, Dr. Katheine. It's so glad to have you on my show.
Thank you. It was so lovely to meet you only, I think, a month ago, and now here we're having that conversation.
Yes. So, welcome to the show. The show is called Fab at 50. So, let's start at the very beginning itself. You work with a lot of talented, ambitious women who have big goals and often everything that it takes to succeed. And yet, many of them find themselves holding back, second-guessing, self-sabotaging themselves just before they're about to make that breakthrough. And why do you think that happens? And what does it take for women to stop standing in their own way of moving forward?
Have you ever said to yourself, gosh, why me? Mm-hmm. There's no way that I'll be able to do X or I'll be able to do Y. My question back is always, well, why not you? Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we think when we put ourselves first, that means that we're putting everyone else last. Mm-hmm. And so many of us had heard that story. Obviously, we're talking about a specific generation here since we were young. Mm-hmm. You've already had your turn. Let someone else go first. Don't talk about yourself too much. Always praise others. Lift others. But what about yourself?
Yeah.
And so I think it's this ingrained software that we have, but it's a bug. It's like, when you have a problem in your computer, we don't think, there's something wrong with our computer. It's a way that we've thought for so long. We're so incredibly scared to come across as arrogant. Mm-hmm. Yet then we end up going through our entire life just watching everyone else live amazing lives, and then we're just waiting for our turn. And I just think it's enough. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's never the right moment. You're never going to have the right time. You're never, ever going to feel ready for doing whatever it is you're going to do, right?
And is this a women problem, or do men go through
You know what they
do?
That's it's interesting that you asked that. I was asked that yesterday, and they were saying, your talks, they come across as more female, but the funny thing is, every time I give a keynote, when it's a mixed audience, I get equal questions from men to women. Mm-hmm. So whether we're more audible about what's going on inside or not, I think it's a human experience.
So putting ourselves last.
Yes.
Always it's the family or it's someone else that goes first, and then we always take that back seat.
Yeah, but yet at the same time, we always think that we need to be doing stuff. Uh-huh. I'll give you an example. There's this app called 360, and we downloaded it because my partner has 2 teenage daughters. So it tells you exactly where they are and how fast they're going. but I use it to monitor my partner because I'll be at home and I just want to be doing absolutely nothing. I'll be watching my Kardashians. But when he gets sort of close to coming home, all of a sudden I clean everything up and I need to look busy.
Yeah.
And I told him this once. I'm like, I feel bad if I'm doing nothing because I should be doing something.
Okay.
And he says, why? You're always doing stuff. You're always getting ahead. But it's almost like we put ourselves last because we don't want to put ourselves first. But at the same time, we never feel like we're doing enough, so we cannot win. It's like we're running this race against ourselves with no finish line.
And the worst thing is, I don't think the partner or the husband expects you to look busy. It's something to do with us, isn't it?
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And he's the first person to offer help. I mean, he does all the ironing, all the dishes, everything. He actually won't even let me near an iron because that's another story that we won't go into.
Okay.
I shrunk his designer shirts once.
Okay.
I know.
Not good.
So I think I was like, subconsciously, I was trying to get out of doing the laundry. But anyways, he's wonderful. That's the thing. It's all these stories that we make up in our head. It's ridiculous.
So, I mean, if we don't get what we deserve, then we're like, oh, why didn't I get that? And if we get the success that we aspired for, we end up feeling guilty, right? Am I deserving of this? Or is this success going to go away? So we're not happy either way, aren't we? And that's something to do with our internal mechanism, nothing to do with the world outside.
Yeah. I think I've met maybe a handful of women that don't think this way. And I always say, what supplements do you take?
Yeah.
What water are you drinking? And it's something, however, I mean, this is something that I used to really let, I guess, self-sabotage myself and hold myself back. You can train your brain out of it, for sure. But the way I describe it, it's kind of like if you've always written with your right hand and then someone says, well, that's not the most efficient way to go through life. You should start learning how to write with your left hand. You can train yourself to do it, but it's always going to feel a little bit awkward. And that is the same thing when it comes to self-respect. It's very, very odd at the start to say, yeah, actually, it's my turn. I'm ready to put myself first. I'm ready to put my hand up. I'm ready to ask, for a raise before, quote unquote, I feel ready. You're never, ever going to feel ready, but that's the whole point. So once you start doing that more, it actually starts to feel pretty good.
And is it something that we're inherently brought up with, that need for acceptance, that need for reassurance? We always want to be, you never want to be by yourself, It's good to be in a group, it's good to be liked, it's good to be included. And so sets in that thought of acceptance, that thought of people pleasing. Is that something women go through all the time?
I think that's a human experience to obviously want to feel loved and fit in. We don't want to be the people out of the group, for sure. I think when it comes to people pleasing, there's something, I think, a little bit deeper than that. So we're talking about the sort of surface level. You're a teenager, you want to be part of the cool group, you want to fit in, right? But then as we get older, I think there's this please and appease, where it's, when I did a study, the best way that someone said she wanted to be the easy one in the family. Her parents were going through a divorce, and she didn't want to cause any more problems, so she became the easy one. She was the one that got the A+. She was the one that did the dishes before anyone asked because she didn't want the waves to start to ripple, right? So there's that kind of experience. Obviously, we can go down into trauma and so forth. That's a whole other experience. But I think inherently there's people pleasers and then there's simply people that just enjoy being liked. So there's two different categories.
And you would think once you reach your 40s and your 50s, you're ready to say, I don't need to be a people pleaser. I know myself, I trust myself, but it's not true. Even at that age, women especially want to, it's sort of inbuilt. It's in our DNA, I guess, isn't it?
I think what we need to ask ourselves is there's a big difference between being nice because it's a right thing to do and being nice because we think something bad is going to happen. For example, it's kindness to the person that makes your coffee and gives you a great coffee. you don't need to say this is the most amazing coffee in the world and make their day amazing. Like it just there's a balancing act to be had. And I think it's just when you have that ruminating, the overthinking. I'll give you an example. Like my partner is the opposite of a people pleaser. If we walk by someone while we're walking the dogs and I say hello to the person who's passing us and they say hello back, I'm like, phew. If they don't, I'll be thinking about that person all day. You know, if someone doesn't say hi back, he won't even notice. Whereas I'll be thinking, why did that person not say hi back? You know, so I think it's just, you have to start small.
Yeah.
You have to say, let it
So
go.
many little things can
It's
put us
little
off.
things.
I mean, someone didn't like your post, someone saw it but didn't like it. I mean,
Yep.
there's every little thing can trigger a sense of insecurity.
It is, and it actually points to the fact that we're all a little bit narcissistic. That's a crazy thing because
Yeah.
people are not thinking of us. So, for example, with that example of the passing stranger, they might be having the worst day imaginable.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why they didn't notice me saying hello. But in my mind, there's that internal narcissist in me is saying, why isn't it about me?
Yeah.
And so that is like what makes your mind a little bit crazy too, because as a people pleaser, our biggest fear is being a narcissist. Yet the irony is it's kind of we are narcissists, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, I read a quote somewhere which says that we always live our life thinking, what will the other person think of me? And then at the end, you realize the other person wasn't even thinking of you in the first place because that person is narcissist themselves, isn't it?
That's it. Yes, there's a great quote. I'm not who I think I am.
Uh-huh.
I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think that you think I am.
Exactly.
Which is a little bit of that little mind twister there. But that's exactly, we all think that way.
So, I mean, we often use the word confidence and self-respect interchangeably, but you make a clear distinction between what confidence is and what self-respect is. So, what is the difference, and how can someone appear confident on the outside, polished, put together, articulate, successful, but still lack self-respect for themselves? How is that even possible?
Well, I'll answer the first. So confidence I studied for quite a long time, and the best way I can describe it, because I lived in Australia for 17 years, is to give it a go. That's sort of like such an Australian saying. It's basically to try something before you feel ready. It's about taking action. So the word itself means with trust. So con is with, fidere is Latin for trust, so with trust. Self-respect, there isn't actually a lot of research. So I conducted a study, and the too long didn't read version is it's the ability to understand that you two are important. You're not saying that I'm more important than you, which is narcissistic. That's obviously self-centered. It's simply saying I'm important too. So the way to think about it is confidence is what gets you into a room, whereas self-respect helps you stand tall when everything doesn't go your way. So for the people who are in business or pitching, you could be pitching like a huge $1 million deal to incredible people. You know, all the investors might be multimillionaires. They might be really, really experienced, really successful. Self-respect is your ability to say, they're amazing, but I'm amazing too, and I still deserve to stand here. So that's the importance of self-respect, is that when that mind starts playing up on you and saying they're more important than me, and then all of a sudden you get tongue-tied, self-respect is saying they're incredible, but you
But
know
I'm
your stuff too.
I'm important too.
Yeah. So you can see how it's such a lacking skill nowadays. So to answer your second question, when it comes to confidence, there's that saying, fake it until you make it. I highly disagree with that because confidence is the brain, right? You can't lie to your brain. Your brain is going to figure it out, right? You can't just say, I'm amazing.
Yeah, you can't fake confidence.
Yeah,
that's what you
I
said.
don't believe you can. Some people
Okay.
say you can, but how do you fake trusting yourself?
Yeah, that's an internal dialogue that you're having with yourself.
Yeah, so the whole thing with confidence is I think faking it implies that it has to go right. Confidence, if you have true confidence, it's your ability to say, I'm just going to try this. I'm going to come on this podcast. It might not go perfectly, but I'm going to give it a go. And I think when things don't go wrong, again, that's when self-respect comes in and says, yeah, maybe you didn't do your greatest job there, but you still deserve to be there.
So you're saying you either have confidence or you don't have confidence. There's no way you can fake it.
I don't think you can, because how do you fake trust with yourself? How do you say how do you say you trust yourself when you really don't?
Yeah.
I know that's very like esoteric and philosophical, but you either trust yourself or you don't.
Yeah.
So I think it's interplayed. I call it like, the self-respect sisters, where you have self-worth, self-esteem, self-efficacy, and it all sort of intertwines together. But like an example would be, let's say you want to ask someone out on a date. I don't think you can say to yourself, well, I'm going to fake confidence, and you either ask that person or you don't, right? Like it's a binary thing.
Yeah.
So I think we waste a lot of time, I suppose, waiting to feel ready, when the whole point is, when it comes to confidence, if you're doing something worthwhile, you shouldn't feel ready.
Yeah.
I mean, so many examples in my book as well, like going up to Chris Hemsworth, agent, because I had this pilot that I produced. I wasn't ready. I'm like a little someone from nowhere, and I wanted to ask him a question. I was not ready to ask him questions, but I did it anyways. You take a risk even though you don't know what the result is going to be. And I think for people at home, there's something on their mind right now that I know they need to do that thing that they need to do, which they've had to do that for about a month now, and they haven't done it.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting for the right time, or to have the right amount of money, or to have the weather is in, like the moon is in the right spot. Pull the trigger, do it.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to feel ready.
So from what I gather is confidence you can actually build up and go out there and go for your first stage performance, or go out there and do what you're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, when your head hits the pillow, do you respect yourself? Have you gone beyond your boundaries? I mean, we all set certain boundaries based on our values, based on our culture, and how far you veered off the boundary. That is the dialogue you have within yourself at the end of the day. And
That's a
are you
toughie.
happy? That's self-respect for me.
Yes.
Does it make sense?
It does. So yes, you can build. So confidence and competence. So competence is your ability to do something, right? Competence is your ability to try to do that thing.
Yeah.
So if you want to picture it, it's like bricklaying. You give something a go before you're ready. You learn from it. Typically, you're going to learn a lot faster through mistakes, which feel absolutely horrendous at the time, but it expedites your learning tremendously. So you build those bricks. And then when you go home and you rest your head on the pillow, self-respect is you're saying, you know what, that didn't really go the way I wanted it to go, but at least I tried and I learned that X, Y, Z.
So you don't pull yourself down.
Yeah, because you know what, time is something that we can never get back. We can never get back today and the time that we lost today to do that thing that we know we should have done, right? So that's that. Now, where values come into it, values are a funny thing, and it's been brought up quite a bit lately, and it's funny that values are words when really they should be actions. You see them on companies' wall, like honesty and kindness and stuff. They shouldn't be on walls. Because if you need to put your values on the walls, that means that you're not taking the time to action them. So to your point, I think when you rest your head on the pillow at night, there's a question to ask yourself is, am I proud of the person I am and the actions that I took today? And I'm not saying I'm a saint, because 9 times out of 10, I think, you know what, I could have done better. But it's that 1%
You don't beat
of
yourself
time.
on it. That's what matters.
You say, it's like Mom's Mabley, I think is her name, when you know better, you do better. We learn a lot through trial and error and mistake than we do doing things well. So when it comes to value set, and I think, to your point of, resting your head on the pillow, I think we focus a lot too much on happiness. Did I have a happy day?
Yeah.
Did I get the likes that I want? Like, is my skin clear? Are my pores clear? Whatever that superficial is. Happiness is quite, I don't want to say easy to get, but I think it's very transient. I think being proud of the person that you are, that's darn tough.
Yeah.
That is really hard, because typically it requires you to make very, very difficult decisions that will take away your happiness, at least in the short term. So it's almost like a long-term loss for a down the road you might be happy. I'll give you a quick example of this. This is many years ago. I was working with a high-powered executive woman. She came to me because she wanted to lose weight. Said every probably woman ever at one point of her life. So we started chatting, what do you eat? What do you do? She's like, work all day. Then I tried to go to the gym, but I'm too tired. So I go home and I eat. I put on a bit of TV, and then, you have one cookie, and then you're like, oh gosh, there goes a whole bag. And then you watch one more episode of Bridgerton, and then all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. in the morning because it's revenge bedtime. And then you wake up feeling like death, and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. It's a cycle, right? Yeah. Yet she wanted to lose weight. I said to her, well, tell me what's going on in work. And she's like, I hate my work. She liked her job. She didn't love it. There was no passion. I said, well, what do you actually enjoy doing? She's like, I love making tetrariums. Like the little plants and the thing. I said, well, okay, just for fun's sake, just once a week, go home, make some tetrariums. Fine, right? So she started doing that. Lo and behold, she started doing that 2 times a week, 3 times a week. No eating, no TV, no binge watching this and that. All of a sudden, the weight started coming off naturally.
Wow, okay.
Lo and behold, family and friends started asking to buy these things. She quit her job, started a business. Now, for the people at home, please do not quit your jobs. This is like a disclaimer here. But the point being, quitting her job was not fun. It was not easy. It was not like that first year. It was filled with happiness and lots of money,
But she was doing something meaningful.
She was doing something meaningful. When she put her head down on the pillow at night, she said, I'm proud of the person I am and the life that I'm building. I'm not happy right now because I have bills to pay, but pride comes first.
Yeah.
Happiness is a cherry on top once you do those actions day in and day out. And this is the importance of the actions through self-respect.
Wow, that's amazing. So deep. Yeah. So, see, self-respect isn't a very popular topic. As I said, hashtag self-love, hashtag confidence, always trends, always goes viral. And it's not a very popular topic. And so what drew you to it? Was there a turning point in your life where you learned to separate confidence from self-respect? And you said, wait, it's not confidence that I'm lacking. It's self-respect. I need to get more of respect for myself. When did you learn to draw that distinction, and when did you realize that these are 2 separate identities?
It only took a mini emotional breakdown.
Oh, okay.
Yes, lots of fun. I think everyone needs like one emotional breakdown in their life. I've been through a few, but we won't go into all of them. I had this, mini breakdown. I flew home, to Canada to talk to my dad. He's my best friend. He's my everything. And we were talking about happiness. Dad, why can't I just be happy? I just want happy this. And then I started thinking about, all the choices I made in my life. When I get my PhD, then I'll be happy. When I stop eating carbs, then I'll be happy. Just going, when you go through, your whole life movie reel.
When I make my first million, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
And then that's not enough. Oh, I need to make the next 10.
That's it.
It's never an end to this.
Yeah. And then I realized something. I said, Dad, I just realized something. You never really said that you're proud of me. You always said that you're happy for me and said, why is that? And he said, Squigs, he calls me Squiggles. He said, Squigs, happiness is something that I can feel for you, but pride is something that you need to develop on your own internally. And this was this trigger conversation where it's confidence I'd been practicing. I had no confidence when I was growing up, and through most of my 30s, I built that. No problem there. Yeah. No more confidence, right? But then there was this other level, and I started thinking about what was going on in my life. And it was, the lyrics from Mamma Mia came up. Mamma Mia, here we go again. My, how can I resist you? Don't worry, I won't sing anymore. But the point being is, all I was focusing on is chasing respect.
Yeah.
When I'm the doctor, then you're going to respect me. When I'm the CEO, then you'll respect me. The more you try to chase respect, the less you respect yourself. And again, it comes back to this question, what are those hard things that you're avoiding doing? And it's really, the thing with self-respect is it sounds so easy because it's self and you're just respecting yourself.
It's the hardest thing, isn't it?
It is so hard. It is so hard because there's so many things from your past that sort of weave through, and then also people are depending on you.
Your own insecurities.
Yeah. So I think it was just The decision that I didn't want to get to my end of my life and look back and say, why did I live my life for everyone else but myself? And I read this book. It's actually a fantastic book. It's called The 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. She's a palliative carer. She cared for hundreds of people in the end of their life journey. She heard these regrets over and over and over again. The top regret for both male and female was, I wish I lived a life true to me, not the life others expected of me. That was her top regret of everything.
Okay.
Imagine that. And I think that regret is less about the dying and more about the living. And I don't want to get to my end of my life and saying coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah.
So why did I move to Dubai? People ask me. Because I wanted to. Not was it like the best time and the right decision. No, it's because I wanted to.
Yeah. So as you say, like, if you stop expecting validation from outside, stop expecting others to respect you, and you start respecting yourself, it's a game changer, isn't it?
It's huge, and we need to start noticing it in the smallest of moments, especially if we have people-pleasing tendencies. Like if we're having a conversation with someone, and someone says, and this is a benign example, but just to illustrate a point, you like the color blue, right? Let's say I don't like the color blue. It's so easy to just want to be friends with everyone by saying, oh my God, I love the color blue too.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, you know what, it's not for me.
I respect your opinion. I know that you
Yeah.
like blue,
Correct.
but sadly I don't.
Again, very benign example, so hopefully the audience can extrapolate that into more obviously serious conversation. But
Yeah.
that's what we need to stop doing, is just
Yeah.
pleasing and appeasing it and making sure all the conversations are completely kosher.
Yeah.
That's, that's
You
not a
don't
way
need
to
to.
live.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
So, I mean, you often talk about the non-negotiables of self-respect. And I found that such a powerful thing as I read about your work. So what are these non-negotiables when it comes to self-respect? And how can someone listening, or maybe someone who's juggling a career, a family, a woman who's struggling with her own identity crisis, how can one start identifying these non-negotiables when it comes to self-respect?
Yeah. So the best way, I do have a quiz on the website. It's free. You can definitely measure your self-respect and see where you're at. But there's 7 non-negotiables, and the way I found them is actually through a qualitative study. So I interviewed incredible people, leaders, both male and female, and I just started asking them the question, like, what does self-respect mean to you? How does it feel like when you don't have self-respect? And I gathered all the data. There's tens of thousands of data points, and it came back to these 7 non-negotiables. And some of the stories some of them were, funny. The other ones were the stories that just brought you to your knees, but they always came back to these 7 non-negotiables. So, and they form the acronym RESPECT. So R is when you risk less, you settle for less. E is embrace your worth. S is, I'm visual. S is about selfishness. So selfishness is not a sin. P is when you try to please everyone, you please no one. E is excellence, doesn't require perfection. C is when you care more about internal pride than external praise. And T is take the help and achieve more faster. So those are the 7 sort of categories. Okay. I think women especially struggle with T, take the help and achieve more faster. I don't know if you've ever had this problem where you're like, I'm just going to do it all myself.
Yeah.
Just with your example at home, if they're trying to do something. We were talking about this yesterday at an event, and I think especially as female leaders, and especially when you get to the second act of your life, maybe there's this connotation that we should kind of know what we're doing by now, but you don't have to have it all figured out.
And it's okay not to know what you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a slap in the face sometimes when you're thinking, gosh, shouldn't I know the answer to that? But I think asking for help is such an important quality, especially as a woman at this point of her life, to just say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to waste any more time. Can you just help me figure this out?
And you did say something else about P, praise yourself.
When you try to,
praise yourself before you expect the world to praise you.
Yes, care about inner pride, not external praise. And then when you try to please everyone, you please no one.
Exactly.
That one.
That's pretty
a
deep.
big one.
Yeah, that's a big
everyone
one.
I say that to, they're like,
can we say that again? What was that?
When you try to please everyone, you please no one.
Exactly.
Especially yourself.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So non-negotiables, it's right there in that word respect. I mean, we can go onto your website and
Yep.
read about it a little more. Okay. And then when you talk of self-respect, you talk of red flags, right? And I think that is such an important concept. Sometimes we don't realize, I mean, we all set boundaries for ourselves based on our values and our culture and our upbringing, but we don't realize that we have crossed that boundary sometimes, and then it's too late. And
It's never too
yeah,
late.
it's never too late.
I don't think it's too late, do you?
Do you think if we cross too much, we end up self-procrastinating and thinking, "Oh, why did I do that? Why did I go beyond this boundary? I could have said no."
Yeah. I don't think it's
I
ever
mean,
too late.
Is it? Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And so how can we recognize these red flags when it comes to self-respect? And I mean, like, you say yes when you mean to say no, and you sort of give more than what you're getting. Or sometimes you undervalue yourself. So red flags to note when it comes to self-respect.
Yeah.
What are these?
One of the ones that I see time and time again is staying silent.
Okay.
So it could be that, let's say in a relationship, your husband, your partner, your wife, they're doing something or something's bugging you. And I'm just going to use a benign example, right? You want to have that conversation, but it's not the right time. They're stressed at work. There's something wrong with the kids. And you delay, to your point of I don't think it's ever too late.
Yeah.
Just because it happened on Monday doesn't mean that you can't talk about it later. So one of the ones that I always find is when you want to say something, but you stay quiet. And the reason is because you're trying to keep the peace. But when you try to keep the peace with someone, what happens is you keep the tension inside your brain and body. And I think we all had this experience. And I do this thing when I really want to say something, I clench my fist really strong, like really tightly, and then I release them. That's when I know I should just speak up.
Okay.
Yeah. So speak up or your silence will speak for you. So that's one red flag that is glaring, absolutely glaring. And me as I think still, I would say recovering people pleaser, and my partner who's the opposite, he would eat conflict for dessert. We've actually come up with an exercise that I can speak up a lot more easily, and we called it pickled onion, which makes no sense, I know. It's our safe word. So when I say, honey, I need to have a pickled onion conversation, he knows as soon as he hears that word, pickled onion, I'm freaking out because in my head, a whole catastrophe is happening. That if I say X, Y, Z, we're going to break up, the world is going to blow up, everything's going to go wrong, my dogs are going to, it's a whole drama in my head. He knows that he just has to take a breath. Whatever I'm going to say is really scary for me to say, and I can say it. So that's just an example of how a red flag can be immediately turned into a green one just by speaking up.
Would this work with someone who you're not close to?
If you
This is
preface
great
a
for
conversation.
with your partner or with your husband or your close friend, where you just speak up and say, you know what, that wasn't right. This doesn't feel right to me, and I don't think I should be doing it. But to someone who is a stranger, things like red flags for me would be going to a party just because it's the right thing to do. When I know I'm not a late night person and I'd rather be at home doing something more productive. But you just want to be fitting in. You just want to be in there. And that for me is stepping out of my boundary for me. And that's a red flag for me, where I've pushed myself beyond just to fit in. So would you call these as red flags? I mean, it's easy to have a conversation with someone who is close to you.
Yes.
But someone who you don't know and someone who
I resonate
may not
with that.
take it in the right spirit.
I resonate with that deeply because I am 8:30 p.m. in bed. And it's interesting, moving here, obviously networking is the only way to really get yourself out there. But I have a boundary that I'm in bed by 8:30. That's a non-negotiable for me. So I ask people, we can meet during the day. But if it's late, it's just not for me. Like my mental health and my health is priority.
So we all have our red flags, and I think you've got to recognize those as red flags and say, you know what, this is a red flag for me, and this is way beyond my boundary, and I'm going to recognize this and say no. The ability to say no to this.
And I think also recognizing boundaries versus compromise. So my partner he could stay, I'm fairly sure he's part vampire. because he just never needs to sleep. He can go out until like 4 o'clock in the morning and be
And
bright
still be
eyed.
fresh the next day.
It's highly suspicious. So sometimes we want to have a date night. And so it's a compromise that I want to have time with my partner. So you compromise. That's different. But I would say, 9 times out of 10, he knows with my health, I'm in bed. So I think it's, and also
It's about
when-
knowing what your red flag is.
yeah,
right?
that's it. And it's going to be different for everyone, and when it comes to strangers, sometimes it is worth speaking up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not. It's like, I was once asked after giving a keynote, like, I work with a narcissist. How do I deal with it? How do I make him realize he's a narcissist? And I said, it's simple, you don't. There are some
You just
fights
walk
that,
away.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's some fights you will not win. And I think the best thing to ask yourself is, are you having a conversation to make things right, or are you having a conversation to prove you're right? Because if you're just having that conversation to say, I'm right, you're wrong, that's not going to go anywhere. If you're having the conversation to make things right, listen, this is what went on for me. I would love to know what was going on for you as well. Can we discuss it?
Yeah.
Different story, right?
Or just the ability to walk away from that,
Or the ability to walk away and also let it go. Because what sometimes
Nothing
happens,
is more important than your own self-respect.
yeah, you might walk away, but then you're still in that conversation with yourself at 2
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning, and you're like, I could have said
How
this.
many
could-
times we've beaten ourselves up because you didn't say the
Yes.
right thing at the right time?
Oh, yeah.
I should have said that.
Oh, yeah.
I should have given it back at that moment.
Yeah,
And
and
you
we're
didn't do
awesome
that.
in the shower
Yeah.
too. We're like, I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
So there's something interesting that I heard from you is a high achieving people pleaser. Now these are again two contradicting terms. How can someone be a high achiever in their life, ambitious, doing well for themselves,
Yeah.
and still be a people pleaser? I mean, it's real, isn't it? Many women who are high performance people are deep down approval seekers, right?
Yep.
And so what's going on there? And what is that inner dialogue or belief system that drives this behavior? Like, how can we start to shift away from this?
It's something that I discovered in the past couple of years, and I remember this one networking event a few years ago. I brought up the term, and everyone, would just
Yeah, it is
turn
a
their
catchy
head.
phrase. High achieving
People pleaser.
people pleaser.
And I just remember it was the weirdest thing. Everyone just turned towards me and they said, "That's me." I was like, "Okay, I'm clearly onto something." So it's kind of like sibling rivalries in your brain. When you have two toddlers and they both want the same thing, but they fight. So there's a high achiever in your brain that says, "I'm ambitious. I want to get things done." But then the high achiever achieves something and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't really count." Because here's the thing, as a high achiever, it's not, you don't set small goals, right? You set decent, chunky goals. But by the time you achieve said goal, you would have learned along the way, right? You would have understood how things work, how systems work, said blah, 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 right? So you think, well, that's not really that big of a deal. So then you set the goal even higher. So that is, whenever I say, who here is a high achiever, everyone says, oh, no, I haven't achieved enough to be a high achiever. And I'm like, that is the exact definition of being a high achiever because you don't think you've achieved enough, right?
Yeah.
The other side, you have the people pleaser, which we people please for one of three different reasons: to fit in, to feel good, or to avoid a fight. So fitting in is, oh my God, I love the color blue as well. Feel good is if you've ever started a question with, is that a stupid question? That's that. Because you want the person, you're asking the question to say, that's an excellent question. Do you remember that from
Asking for validation.
Yeah,
from someone
exactly.
else. Yeah.
And avoid a fight, and this isn't even just for the Canadians. If you're a conflict avoider, as we were talking about before, if you've ever not said something because you just want to keep the peace, that's inherently a people pleaser. Now, where these two fit in, the best example I can give is like, let's say you just hit 10,000 downloads on your podcast, right? You're like, oh, this is amazing. I'm going to post about this on LinkedIn. So you're like, yeah. You start, drafting the post. You take a photograph of yourself, a nice photograph, but not too nice because you don't want to be too full of yourself. And you're writing the caption, you're about to post it. And then you're like, oh. So that's when the high achiever in you says, Yeah, but you know, with the other podcasts, they have 100,000 downloads. You only have 10,000. And then the people pleaser comes in your brain and says, really? You're going to post about you and all that you've achieved? Isn't that like a little bit full of yourself? So these two fight against each other.
And we forget we work so hard to get that 10,000 hits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's like out the brain, right?
Yeah.
So do you end up posting or not? No.
No. Yeah.
Right? And you never know who might have seen that post. Maybe Oprah might have seen that post and said, oh my God, well done. I would love to be on your podcast. So we lose that opportunity.
Yeah.
So people might be listening and saying, yeah, but what's the big deal? Because we're still going to be achieving amazing things and we're going to be nice to people. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, we're held back by this little thing called fear. Fear of
what
never
other people would think.
well, fear of not achieving enough or being liked enough.
Okay.
So fear is it's only 10,000 downloads, it's not 100,000. Fear of what will people think if I actually praise myself? That's so arrogant. But as we started this conversation, no one's thinking about us. And you know what? If they are,
So be it.
you could be the juiciest peach in the world, and some
Yeah,
people just
yeah.
don't like peaches, right? So we're held back by this imaginary criticism.
yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, I'm never going to lie, some people will be mean to you.
But that's okay.
That's you know, when we come into this world and we have this ticket, that's part of the ticket.
Yeah.
That is this ride that we call life.
Not everybody is going to like you.
Some of it is really going to suck. A lot.
And that's okay.
But some of it's going to be great. But we have to remember this is our ticket.
Yeah.
It's our ticket. We can play the game however we damn well please. So post the post.
Yeah, go ahead. So again, seeking validation from outside. As long as you respect yourself and as long as you're happy with yourself, go ahead and do what you wanted to do, isn't it?
Yeah, ask that question. I mean, that's such a good point. Is what I think of myself is more important than what you think
Others
of
think
me.
about me. Yeah.
Now, take that, of course, with a grain of salt. Let's not all become like narcissists. But to the point that if you're going to be writing that post, ask yourself, am I proud of myself? Yes. Will I be proud of posting this? Yes. Post it.
Yeah, I know how hard I worked for it, so
Yeah.
it's an achievement for me,
That's it.
right? And
That's
if I
it.
look at someone else with 100,000 downloads, so be it. For me, this is a landmark.
Yep.
So I'm
Yep.
going to shout it out to the world. Look where I've landed, isn't it? Yeah,
that's it.
Awesome. So, I mean, it's another thing is one of the things that I love about you is how honest you are about your own story, and you don't shy away from sharing your life struggles, your doubts, the lessons that you've learned from your life journey. Were you always this open, or did you reach a point where you decided, like, if I'm going to talk in front of an audience and telling them how to live their lives, I have got to be authentic myself too. Today we are in a world where every second person is a coach, every second person is a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
But then how many of them are true to what they talk about, right?
Yeah.
So how important do you think this is, like, to live what you're talking about?
It is. I think it needs to happen authentically or genuinely. And I think everyone goes through these sort of, I guess, roller coasters where sometimes you do overshare and you overshare. It's kind of like therapy from stage. That's a terminology in keynote speaking when you're not really ready to share your life story for the right reasons. You're just trying to, therapize yourself. But I remember the first time I shared a little bit of my story with a best friend at the time back in Canada. I was severely binge eating at the time. And again, this is, I guess for the people on this podcast, they'll remember pre-social media.
Okay.
And I was so nervous, but my head felt like I was going to explode. I just felt so disgusted with myself. And I said to her, like, Sarah, I binge eat when I stress. And in my head, I had already created this catastrophe, like white men in coats were going to come take me away to the loony bin. And she said, oh my God, I do that too. And that was the first time I realized that what I was going through wasn't just me. I'm not the only crazy one out there. Like, she's a little bit crazy like me too. And so that was, I think I was only about 25, 26, so several years ago. And then you go through these little, it's almost like dimmer switch moments in life where you share a little bit, you get a little bit of a light, people sort of respond to it, and then you're like, ooh, that was a little bit scary, and then you share a little bit more. But it was really just in the past couple of years that I took time, and I really thought, when it comes to my story, it's not about my story. Like, I don't tell people how to live their life. I share my story. I try to have a very coherent message, something that I say they can chew on, they can sort of think about. It's like the shower conversations that they can have with themselves and say, I wonder how that applies to me. Does it apply to me? For example, when I tell the story about risk, taking risk, it's not about me. It's about their life. How can they take that? So that's why I share and why I do what I do.
And we try to live as authentically as we can,
I do, yeah. Authentically and genuinely. I think authenticity, I absolutely support the term and I believe in the term, but I think there's also a time and a place for being authentic. Sometimes maybe I think some people are running with the term, I think, a little bit too much. I don't know. That's what I'm sensing lately. You know how like when term gets grabbed a hold. I think just being genuine with yourself. I mean, this is why I have this tattoo on my left inner arm for the people listening. It says, "To thine own self be true, love Dad." So after that emotional breakdown, when I was sitting with my dad, we started talking about this quote, "To thine own self be true." He was telling me this quote since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. I thought he was weird. I had no idea what he was talking about. But, parents are weird, and then you get a little bit older, and then you start to understand. And this is when that quote really sunk in, no pun intended, it's a tattoo. So I got him to write it out 10 times on a piece of paper. But the point being is, when things get tough, when you're asking the question, should I share or not, you ask the question, to thine own self be true. And it's just a reminder, again, getting back to the end of the day, am I going to lay my head down on the pillow at night and say, was that a good decision?
Lived my life authentically.
Yeah. Am I proud of the person I was today? The actions I took, the decisions I made. And it's not always a yes, but I learned from those days.
Amazing. Awesome. So, I mean, you have such an interesting background. You have a PhD in biotechnology, and that's a huge accomplishment by itself. And yet now you work with mindset, self-respect, and personal growth. So, and two completely different fields. So that's a transition. And, how did you go from this world of science to the world of self-discovery? And do you see an overlap in them, or do you see anything scientific in this concept of self-respect?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So when I did my PhD, I was interested. My father's a physiologist, so I sort of followed in his footsteps. But it was actually the conversations that I had with my subjects. When I was taking blood from them and we had to do lab assays, sometimes we would be in the lab for 7 hours together. And it was the conversations that we had together that I always found the most fascinating, because they knew what they had to do, but the question is why they did it. Like, why didn't they do the things they knew that they needed to do to become healthier? And this sort of obviously dovetailed into what I do today, which is I'm very interested in people are highly intelligent. They know what they should do. So the question is why? So I've been curious ever since I was a little kid. So that's how that sort of joined. And then when it comes to science, sometimes I get frustrated that I've done all those degrees because it makes you very skeptical because you just want to question
I'm wondering
everything.
if there's a connection, people who have more self-respect, who think highly of themselves, they are less stressed, or they have less cortisol, or some sort of a scientific connection is there?
That's a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. There's not a lot of research when it comes to self-respect. Confidence has been studied a lot more, even in regards to like the COMT gene. So there's actually a gene that codes for whether you're a worrier or a warrior. So they've done a lot of research in that. I think because self-respect has been conflated, or basically conflated just means that they think it's the same thing as self-worth or the same thing as confidence. It's being put into that bucket. So it's a good question, and I would love to know the answer.
We should look that up.
For sure.
Awesome. So let's talk about your book now. The Self-Respect Playbook that's coming up. Congratulations on it.
Thank you.
It's your third book, self-published, not easy at all.
Yes.
What inspired you to write this? And when a reader picks up your book, What are they going to learn from it? How is it different from any of the self-help books that we find on the
Yeah.
bookshelves out there? And if there's one message that one of your readers could walk away with from your book, what would that be?
I'll start with that one because that's such a good one. The reason why I wrote this book is actually based on something that happened many years ago. I'd moved into a house when I'd started my degree, and there was a lovely lady upstairs, and she was studying her master's, and she was a dog mom, and we became friends. And she said, "Why don't we walk the dogs on Saturday, that coming Saturday?" I said, "Oh my God, great." And inside I was like, "Oh, I have a new friend. This is great." So Saturday came. I had my dogs. I told my dogs that we were going for walkies. I went up and I said, "Oh, I'm ready to go." And she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I totally forgot. Can we reschedule?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." On the outside, answering very, very happily. I was devastated, right? Because I was so looking forward to her companionship. Still took the dogs out. There was this wooded area, across the way. I sat down on a log, and this sounds very Hollywood and dramatic, but I could not stop crying. And in my head, all I could think about was, I'm not special enough. If I was more special, she would have remembered. She would have remembered that we had this doggy date.
And see how we put the blame on ourselves, isn't it? If I was special, how about putting the blame on the other person and saying she forgot?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So it's this inherent, if you've ever woken up and said, "I just don't feel special enough," then this book is for you.
Okay, so let's move on.
Yeah.
Rapid fire. Give me the quickest answer that comes to your
Okay.
mind. Confidence in one word.
Oh, trust.
Trust. Okay. Self-respect in one word.
Special.
Special. Okay. One boundary that you will never break again. Anything like you would say.
My first thought is sleep.
Okay.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm like, no one can ever wait. If I'm sleeping, do not wake me up. That's
Okay.
a boundary my partner knows never ever to break.
Okay. All right. Okay. One morning routine that you must have.
Coffee.
Coffee. Yes.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Okay. A habit that you had to unlearn to protect your peace.
Binge eating, actually. That
okay.
was a hard one.
Yeah, and that's so closely related to stress and again,
Oh, huge.
so closely related to people pleasing, so closely related to self procrastinating. So
Oh,
much
there's
involved in
so
that,
much
isn't
involved.
it?
Yep.
The biggest myth about an ambitious woman,
Ooh, that she has it all together.
and that she can't be a people pleaser and be
Yeah,
ambitious
yes,
together,
yes.
isn't it? Yeah. Best advice you've ever received?
Ooh, to thine own self be true.
Oh, awesome. And the worst advice?
Oh,
People said, no, you can't do this.
the worst advice I ever got was, "You're a PhD, speak like a PhD."
Okay, whatever that means.
Well, they were trying to say, like when I said, "I just want to tell stories on stage," and they're
Okay.
like, "No one wants to hear about your binge eating and your relationships and
Talk science and talk facts.
science. Talk science to me,
Okay.
baby."
Gosh, that's the most boringest thing
Yeah,
ever.
exactly.
One thing you would wish for every woman over 40 to stop apologizing for.
Being themselves.
Very true, isn't it? Yeah. We apologize for even taking up space, don't we?
Yeah.
Your go-to self-care ritual after a long day?
Anything to do with my dogs, cuddling my dogs.
Okay.
Unquestionably.
And if you could put a message on every woman's mirror in the morning, what would that message say?
You are important.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's say that again. We are important. You
That's
are
it.
important.
That's it.
So before we wrap up, for someone who's listening right now and who's realizing that, you know what, I've been compromising on my self-respect. Something that you do it so often, but you never realize that you are compromising on your self-respect. Maybe you're compromising on your relationship. Maybe it's your work, or maybe your relationship with yourself. What is that one small action that anyone can take to start rebuilding that self-respect?
Yeah. Ask yourself, is a decision I'm going to make me proud, or am I making this decision just to keep the peace? It's a harder question. It's an easy question to ask, hard question to answer.
Okay.
Because oftentimes, obviously, we do things to keep the peace with others, but not our own internal peace. So action more about self-pride, pardon me.
Okay. So, no harm in having that self-pride,
Oh,
isn't
gosh,
it?
no.
Yeah, why
Not at
not? Awesome. So thank you, Catherine. This has been such a wonderful, refreshing, grounding, deeply inspiring conversation, I must say. And, somebody listening out there would have gained so much from this conversation. And, you've reminded us that self-respect isn't about being loud or bold. It's that quiet conversation that you have with yourself. That's it. Isn't it? And things that you value, the boundaries that you set for yourself, and things that you're no longer willing to compromise on. And to all our listeners, if this episode spoke to you, take a quiet moment, introspect, and see if you are losing out on your own self-respect. Are you someone who says yes to everything when you want to say no? Are you someone who, seeks permission before you go out and do anything, right? And are you someone who sets boundaries and always crosses them because you want to be a people pleaser? You could be anyone, as we just discussed. You could be a high achiever, but you could still be a people pleaser. And are you over delivering just because you want to honor yourself and say, I've got to do this just to be acceptable. I've got to be a multitasker. I've got to be all in one. And remember, confidence is how the world sees you, but self-respect is how you see yourself. Isn't it? And so as we walk forward, knowing that self-respect is not selfish, you're worth it. I'm Kala Shekhar, host of Fab at 50. Hope this conversation resonated somewhere a little bit. And thanks for listening. And if this did resonate, do subscribe, do share. Thank you so much, Dr. Catherine. It's been awesome. Yeah, thank you.